I'm Katie Couric. Tonight, a presidential shift on Iraq. The president is now willing to put benchmarks, goals for the Iraqis to meet, in a war funding bill.
One message I have heard from people from both parties is that the idea of benchmarks makes sense, and I agree.
Also tonight, the maker of OxyContin admits it intentionally misled the public about how addictive the painkiller can be. A really hot Atlanta. Scientists now see the day when triple-digit summer temperatures in the southeast will be normal. And the hot debate over why more and more women are leaving their jobs and staying home with the kids.
This is the CBS Evening News with Katie Couric.
Hello, everyone. In the standoff between Congress and the president over paying for the war in Iraq, the president blinked today, and it was members of his own party who forced him to do it. The president would still veto a funding bill that included a deadline for troop withdrawal, but he now says he's willing to accept a bill that sets benchmarks for the Iraqis. We have two reports tonight, beginning with Jim Axelrod at the White House.
With pressure building from inside his party about Iraq, President Bush struck a note of compromise today, endorsing benchmarks or goals for political and economic progress.
One message I have heard from people from both parties is that the idea of benchmarks makes sense, and I agree. It makes sense to have benchmarks as a part of our discussion on how to go forward.
But the key is what happens if Iraqis don't meet the standards. Democrats want consequences. Less money for everything from U.S. troop support to Iraqi reconstruction. The president won't go that far yet, but has instructed top aides to negotiate with Congress on this. One reason the president may be giving ground? It turns out a group of 11 moderate Republican congressmen met with President Bush privately this week and told him bluntly that his policy in Iraq is threatening the party.
I'd say the tone was very frank. The tone was very forthright. It was pretty much a no-holes barred type of meeting. I think people really spoke their mind in a way that I haven't seen at other meetings at the White House before.
The members are saying, you know, my constituents don't care if we lose this war. They want out of this at this point, and just giving him the public mood.
For now, the White House is still trying to buy time until September, when General David Petraeus will report back on how the troop surge is working.
My attitude toward Congress is, why don't you wait and see what he says? Fund the troops and let him come back and report to the American people.
Republican sources say they fear raising the stakes for General Petraeus' report in September because it'll give the enemy exactly what the president says it must not have, a date to focus on. If the U.S. course in Iraq is determined in September, then they warn August could get awfully bloody. Jim Axelrod, CBS News, the White House.
I'm Cheryl Atkinson on Capitol Hill, where White House Chief of Staff Josh Bolten has been talking to senators from both parties who don't want to wait till September to do something about the war. One of them, Republican Olympia Snowe, is just back from Iraq.
Based on my recent trip, I can tell you things have not markedly improved.
Snowe is pushing a benchmark bill with deadlines. It gives the Iraqi government 4 months to meet key benchmarks, including taking control of its own military, disarming the militias, and political reforms. If those benchmarks aren't met, there would be huge changes for the 146,000 U.S. troops now in Iraq. Most combat troops would be out within 6 months, and the mission would shift to training and support. It's those consequences that are now the center of the debate, but more Republicans are joining the chorus of Democrats.
Does there have to be a provision in there that says what happens if these benchmarks aren't met?
Absolutely. I think it does. I mean, I think it's imperative because otherwise we're not leveraging, you know, I think the pressure on the Iraqis to do what they need to do and what they themselves admitted they needed to do as well.
The House is passing a bill tonight that would only fund the war through August.
I'll veto the bill if it's this haphazard piecemeal funding.
But Democrats are very open about their intention to keep the heat on President Bush.
I must admit to you straight up, this is about building pressure.
Now, there is pressure on Congress to fund the troops before the Memorial Day holiday, which means, Katie, there's a lot of ground to cover in 2 weeks. The House and Senate would have to agree on a bipartisan bill with benchmarks, one that the president is willing to sign.
And Cheryl, does anyone on the Hill think the Iraqis are actually capable of meeting the potential benchmarks that Congress and the president would agree on?
Some people might be, Katie, but we've talked to a lot of people who really don't think the Iraqis can meet any of the benchmarks that have been set forth.
And what if they only meet some of them? Does that mean only some of the funding will be rescinded?
It depends on how the final bill is worded, but we did look at one today, one proposal that said if any single benchmark is not met, then that would trigger the withdrawal provisions.
All right, Cheryl Atkinson reporting from Capitol Hill tonight. Today in Iraq, a pep talk for U.S. troops from Vice President Cheney. It came during his stop at the military base near Tikrit, where more than 10,000 Americans are stationed. Just a few weeks ago, they learned their deployments were being extended by 3 months. Today, the vice president told them he understands their hardship, but the extension was, quote, vital to the mission. Now to a case that has rocked the prescription drug industry. The company that makes OxyContin and 3 of its top executives admitted today they misled the public about how addictive the painkiller can be. And now they're paying the price, more than $600 million in fines. More now on the dangers of OxyContin from Bob Orr.
For 6 million Americans a year, OxyContin is the prescription painkiller of choice. But it's also a highly addictive and deadly pill, the favorite narcotic of drug abusers. More than 400 deaths have been blamed on the drug. Now its manufacturer, Purdue Pharma, admits it lied to doctors and patients about the risks to boost sales.
The illegal conduct here was intended to maximize profits at the consumer's expense.
The company and 3 top executives today pleaded guilty after a government investigation found that from 1996, when the drug hit the market, to 2001, Purdue Pharma falsely claimed that OxyContin was less addictive, less subject to abuse, and less likely to cause withdrawal symptoms than other pain medications. None of that was true. 29-year-old Jill Skolik was prescribed the painkiller for her backaches. She died in 2002.
It's a big victory. It's a victory for Jill. And it's a victory for thousands of people whose lives have been devastated by Purdue Pharma and OxyContin.
Scores have died using the drug illegally. One pill, which costs about $2 at the pharmacy, can bring $25 on the drug-dealing market. When the pills are crushed and then injected or snorted, users get a euphoric, heroin-like high. It's estimated more than 3.5 million Americans have abused OxyContin. Former Health Secretary Joseph Califano blames the drug's maker and the executives who pushed it.
If these individuals had done the same thing with street drugs, they would be in jail for a very long time. So they're very lucky that all they're doing is paying some money.
And critics say it's not nearly enough. $630 million a year in fines are just a slap on the wrist for peddling a deadly drug that brings in more than $1 billion a year in sales. Bob Orr, CBS News, Washington.
Now to those floods that are still devastating parts of the Midwest. In Levacy, Missouri, a number of farms were underwater today after levees broke along the Missouri River several miles away. Parts of that river are expected to remain at flood stage until Saturday. Missouri is one of 6 states affected. The flooded areas are highlighted in blue. Sections of Oklahoma, Kansas, Iowa, Nebraska, and South Dakota are also underwater. About another natural disaster, firefighters in Los Angeles said today they're close to containing the Griffith Park wildfire, which has burned 800 acres. But in the southeast, massive wildfires continue to burn in Florida and Georgia. Kelly Kobiea reports from one border town where they're fighting fire with fire.
You might need to back out. Please back out.
In the small town of Taylor, Florida, just south of the Georgia border, firefighters are launching a ground assault.
So they're back burning this direction.
They can't get to the fire line, buried in dense forest and swampland and burning toward town. Instead, they're lighting fires they can control, called backfires, to eat up the fuel before the main fire can.
And right in there, you can see the fire.
Stuart Taylor's home sits 100 feet from the flames of that backfire. His wife evacuated, but he stayed behind to watch over the horses and cattle.
But it's right behind your house.
Right, but it's backing in here. If the wind was to shift now and make it a head-on, then it might be more of a problem.
That wind has been the problem since Monday, fanning fires and blowing smoke across the dry forests and swamps of Florida and southern Georgia. About 300 square miles have burned in the two states. More than half that total is from the Waycross fire in Georgia. It's been burning for more than 3 weeks now and is the largest in state history. The brief hope that was subtropical storm Andrea brought no needed rain, just waves and unwanted wind.
Oh, you can feel that wind kicking up again.
Firefighters have been brought to the southeast from all over the country, 1,200 hopping from one fire to the next in Florida.
I can see my house, so it's, you know, that's good for me, but a lot of these people can't see their homes. They don't know where the fire is.
The local sheriff had hoped to tell evacuees they could go back home by the end of the day, but late this afternoon he said no. The winds have become too strong and too unpredictable. And oddly enough, he says he's now praying for a tropical storm. Kelly Kobiella, CBS News, Taylor, Florida.
Bad weather may have cost the charismatic founder of JetBlue his job. David Neeleman stepped down today as CEO just a few weeks after that winter storm meltdown that forced the airline to cancel 1,700 flights. Neeleman will stay on as chairman, but JetBlue President Dave Barger will replace him as CEO. There is much more CBS News ahead, including the end of an era as America loses its closest ally in the Iraq War. President Bush is losing his best friend on the world stage. Tony Blair announced he is stepping down as British Prime Minister effective next month. The president called him a remarkable person, but Blair's role as the president's ally ended up costing him dearly. From London, here's Elizabeth Palmer.
Tony Blair chose his home district in northern England to announce that after more than 10 years, it was time to go.
In this job, in the world of today, I think that's long enough for me, but more especially for the country.
The local party faithful may still adore him, but the truth is, much of Britain has fallen out of love with its Prime Minister. Tony Blair swept to power on a wave of optimism.
A new dawn has broken, has it not?
But his career was blighted, says Matthew Paris, by one key blunder.
Iraq, Iraq, Iraq. It must haunt him through his dreams now, and it will for the rest of his life.
Before the bad dreams, though, there was a honeymoon that began with the landslide victory Blair won by dragging Britain's old left-wing Labour Party to the political centre. Tony Blair, the idealist with a conscience, brokered a peace agreement in Northern Ireland and convinced Western leaders to stop Slobodan Milosevic's campaign of ethnic cleansing in Kosovo. But when the world changed, Tony Blair's fierce idealism did not.
We will confront the tyrannies and dictatorships and terrorists who put our way of life at risk.
In spite of huge anti-war demonstrations at home, Blair volunteered British troops as America's main ally in Iraq. It earned him a standing ovation in Washington.
Mr. Prime Minister, can I buy you dinner?
Certainly.
But a new nickname at home, Bush's Poodle. And it probably cost him his job. But today, Tony Blair tried one more time to justify himself.
Hand on heart, I did what I thought was right.
Tony Blair will formally step down on June 27th. His successor, Gordon Brown, a stern Scottish economist who already lives just next door to the Prime Minister here in Downing Street, will take over immediately. Brown has run Blair's prosperous British economy for the past 10 years. Although never good friends, they did make a good team. With the departure of Blair, Brown is left to lead a discontented country on his own. Elizabeth Palmer, CBS News, London.
Up next, if you think summers are hot now, you ain't seen nothing yet. A new report that will really make you sweat. There's a huge recall of infant car seats to tell you about tonight. It involves 450,000 even-flow Embrace infant car seat carriers. The company says they're perfectly safe when used in a car, but when used as a carrier, the handle can unexpectedly release, causing the seat to tip forward and the baby can fall out. Evenflo says 160 children have been injured, 6 of them seriously. The faulty seats were made before April 8th of 2006. You can find the date yours was made on the label under the seat. To get a repair kit, call Evenflo at 800-490-7497. And we've posted more information about this on our website at cbsnews.com. And now to the weather and a long-range forecast. NASA scientists made some alarming predictions today about just how hot it's going to get. Here's Randall Pinkston.
From California to the East Coast, last summer was one of the hottest in 100 years. Now, a new report by the top government scientists who study climate change predicts high temperatures in the southeastern United States during the summer could average up to 110 degrees by the turn of the century.
What is the new information that we are getting from your new study?
Based on our study, the amount of global warming might be even more than had been previously thought.
Leonard Druyan, who co-authored the study, says it will not only be much hotter, but less rainy during the summer months.
Your model predicts that there will be less rain than other models have predicted.
Less frequent rain in the summer months.
And because there's less frequent rain, the temperatures will
be higher. Yes.
And much hotter temperatures will not be confined to the southeast, according to the study. These maps show what to expect. In all of the eastern United States in July 1993, high temperatures ranged from 86 to 100 degrees. 80 years from now, the new model predicts the highs will average a scorching 93 to 108 degrees. This new report, as troubling as it is, offers a business-as-usual approach to global warming. Another new report released just last week by the UN offers hope. It says global warming can be reduced by using methods already available to government and private industry. The UN report says it will be cheaper to deal with global warming now than to deal with its consequences later. Randall Pinkston, CBS News, New York.
To drug safety now, the Senate wants the FDA to do more to protect us from potentially dangerous drugs like Vioxx. The painkiller was pulled from the market 3 years ago after it was linked to an increased risk of heart attacks and strokes. The Senate has now voted to give the FDA extra strength to monitor drug safety and police the drug industry. And another move today intended to protect your health. The Motion Picture Association of America said today smoking will now be considered when rating movies, right up there with sex, violence, drugs, and adult language. Coming up next, working mothers leaving careers and staying home with the kids. What's behind this new trend? There's some good news tonight about the American family, and surprising too. The divorce rate has fallen to the lowest level in nearly 40 years. Experts say one reason may be fewer marriages, 30% fewer than 25 years ago. And another new trend affecting the family, more and more women are leaving their jobs and staying home with the kids. 10 years ago, more than 4 million women with young children were working outside the home. Today, that number is down to about 3 million. The question is, what's the reason for the decline? Kelly Wallace has tonight's Eye on the American Family.
Careful, Jackson.
When Nicole Knox had her son Jackson 3.5 years ago, she asked herself, could she continue working as a lawyer at her high-powered firm?
I went back and forth, and then finally I decided that I couldn't do the level that I needed. I couldn't be at the level I needed to be at the job I was doing, and also do what I wanted to do with Jackson.
Knox, who's 33, was student body president at Northwestern Law School. She never expected to be an example of a heated debate these days, mothers opting out of work.
I'd never planned on staying home. I'm really not a homemaker. I wasn't at the time. I'm much better now.
Ever since the New York Times profiled some highly educated career women who gave it up to become full-time moms, opting out has been seen as the latest trend in mothering, a kind of social revolution. But the question is, why did these women turn their backs on corporate America to be home with the kids? Are they opting out, or did they run out of options?
It's a myth. It's a myth in two ways. There's no revolution, and women aren't opting out, they're being shut out.
In researching her new book, Opting Out, Why Women Really Quit and Head Home, sociologist Pam Stone found most left top careers with great reluctance.
Yeah, I really expected that I was going to hear them telling me all about family and all about the pulls of family. But instead what I found was they were talking a lot about work, and it was the conditions of their jobs that were really forcing them out and forcing them into making a decision.
I think I broke the silence.
Philosopher Linda Hirschman has a different take. She believes women are choosing to walk away from work and making a big mistake.
If you opt out, you do not use your full talents and abilities, okay, for the most part.
Her book, Get to Work, outraged many stay-at-home moms.
If you try to go back, it's very hard to get back to the place that you left.
Hirschman wonders why it's always the women struggling to balance work and family.
If working part-time is such a great idea, why aren't men doing it? They are not doing it.
Some women say it's not opting out, it's opting different.
It's not fair to say you're opting out, you quit, that's it. You're no longer working or wanting to work. It's more you're opting out of a certain level of work or a certain job, a certain lifestyle.
That's what Nicole Knox has done. She started a law firm from home. Business and her family, she says, are thriving. Kelly Wallace, CBS News, New York.
And that's the CBS Evening News. I'm Katie Couric. Thanks for watching. Good night.